The following incident occurred in 1958 when I was a Navy jet fighter pilot. Our aircraft carrier was steaming in a northerly direction in the Pacific Ocean, east of the Sea of Japan, one late fall day. Farther to the east, a typhoon was moving north as well. The seas were heavy, but not too rough to prevent air operations. Our flight, the last one for the day, launched around 3 p.m. and lasted for an uneventful hour and a half. When we returned, however, we found the ship pitching up and down and rolling in such heavy seas that our planes had great difficulty landing, either because of the uneven deck or because the plane ahead was fouled up and the arresting gear blocking this landing area. 6 times I tried to land and 6 times was waved off. I became anxious. Each landing approach consumed 150 to 200 pounds of fuel. A pound is about 7 gallons of jet fuel. I was down to 450 pounds of fuel. On my 8th attempt, I was again waved off. "What is your fuel status?" the air boss asked by radio. 150 pounds. The air boss asked for my intentions. I could either climb to parachute altitude and eject before I ran out of fuel, or make one more attempt to land, with no chance of parachute escape. But if I failed, the plane would go into the sea. It was by now early evening, and the ship was laboring, and the seas so rough that the rescue helicopter had landed. My plane was the last one in the air. I decided that my chances for survival after parachuting into a cold, mountainous sea with night approaching were non-existent. Even in calm conditions, a water landing was not advised, as the aircraft was known to blow apart on watery entry. I told the air boss that I would make one last attempt. As I flew downward and prepared to turn onto the base leg of my approach, I prayed out loud into my oxygen mask, but not over the radio. "Lord Jesus Christ, I need your help now, or I will die. This is beyond my ability to control. My wife, 6 months, was expecting our first child. I prayed, I want a family. I want to see my children. But if it is your will that I should die now, then I accept your will. I will fly this plane to the best of my abilities until the end." I turned onto my approach heading. Suddenly a feeling of great warmth, love, and incredible joy overcame me. My anxiety was gone. Although my hands were on the controls, a far better pilot than me was flying the plane. I knew instantly that my prayer was being answered and that I had nothing to fear. As the plane let down to the carrier from a distance of about 2 miles and an altitude of about 150 feet, I looked up at the ship in utter amazement. It appeared to be floating on top of a huge upwelling of water. The waves were not penetrating the upwelling, and the ship was floating level as in a calm sea. This lasted for some 20 to 25 seconds. Just as the tail hook engaged the air resting wire, the divine assistance ceased, and the ship heeled sharply to starboard. But I was safely aboard. The aircraft line chief told me later that my aircraft was bone dry of jet fuel when checked before refueling. Incidentally, I did not tell my experience to my squad mates, and the ship personnel were not in a position to see the upwelling, which, as I recall, extended to no more than 20 yards on either side of the ship. As you can imagine, I was overwhelmed by the incident. 25-year-old pilots don't preach to their squadron mates, but I knew what had happened. This contact with the Supreme Being affected my life. It made human goals of wealth and control and position seem of little consequence. It's made me very uneasy in the presence of unprincipled men and women, even to the point of filling shoes. Since then, I have turned my life over to Christ. I have had wonderful marriage of 33 years, children and grandchildren, and been able to retire from business at the age of 58 after the usual ups and downs. Odd that people will trust their savings in the hands of a banker or an investment broker, but not to think to put their happiness in the hands of God. Name withheld by request. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a story from a book called Angel Letters. Seems like a very interesting book. If you liked what you saw, please comment, like, and subscribe. And you have a good afternoon or evening.